Welcome back. Now, on Thursday, the World Food Programme was awarded the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize for its efforts to combat hunger and improve conditions for peace in conflict-affected areas. Now, the UN body was also praised for bettering conditions for peace and preventing the use of hunger as a weapon of war. The Nobel Committee said the WFP's work was an endeavor that all the nations of the world should be able to endorse and support. And for more details, I'm joined via Skype by Dr. George Fedha, WFP country representative in Namibia. A very good morning to you, Dr. Fedha, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Dinishi, and thank you for having me here.
First of all, congratulations are in order to you and, of course, the entire WFP staff across the world. What does this mean to you personally?
And Dinishi, it's hard to sit here and not to stand up and celebrate. And thank you for putting the issue of food and hunger in front with NBC crew. So it means a lot to me, but it also means a lot to my colleagues who are, especially those who are in the hardship collections in the world.
Yeah. Doctor, perhaps for the sake of our viewers, we can start with a brief history of the WFP and also the growing responsibility of this organization, especially with the mounting hunger situation across the world here.
Yeah, the World Food Programme is the food assistance branch of the United Nations, and it's the world's largest humanitarian organization addressing hunger. Since its inception in 1961, it has worked closely with the community-based needs approach and provides food on average to about 100 million people per year. Wow. 58 million of those 100 million are children. WFP works in more than 80 countries around the world, including Namibia, to support vulnerable populations and avert hunger, work with smallholder farmers to grow food locally, support homegrown solutions, including school feeding, and also strengthen government systems and capacity that include social protection and safety nets.
Yeah. Talk to us about the operations of the WFP here in Namibia.
In Namibia, we've been working for the past more than 30 years to basically look at supporting vulnerable groups and enable them meet their food and nutrition needs throughout the year. This includes food and cash assistance, as well as capacity strengthening at both national and regional levels. For example, between March 2020 to August 2020, WFP supported food assistance programs to more than 400,000 individuals here in Namibia. Wow. And also we work very closely with government bodies such as the National Planning Commission and other departments to enable an evidence and analytically informed government ecosystem around program design in hunger issues throughout the National Development Plan period. Yeah. We also work closely with the Ministry of Education to support school feeding of about 350,000 children in Namibia in about 1,400 schools. Efforts are now underway to transform this school feeding into a sustainable homegrown model where schools become the hub to generate demand for nutritious foods and therefore promote local homegrown solutions to climate-smart agriculture. Despite this, we also work closely with the regional authorities to promote local economy-wide solutions on the ground. Yeah.
And Doctor, from your assessments of the situation here in the country, what would you say is our progress? How would you define our progress in combating hunger here?
I think the best approach to combating hunger is using a community-based approach, and I think Namibia has established very good regionally based programs. When I came 2 months ago to Namibia, I've had a chance to go around Kunene and Oshikoto, Oshana, Omusati. I visited the Kavango East and West, and also Zambezi as well as Omaheke. I saw a lot of innovations that sort of geared towards a market-based approach to combating hunger, and that I think is a very good progress that we are making. So we are also working very closely with the Minister of Agriculture, OPM and the Ministry of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare to put systems that are very integrated.
Indeed. Doctor, despite, all of these successes, we know that there have been several shortcomings as well for the WFP, particularly with regards to funding cuts. And this, of course, has been a big hindrance to your operations. Can you speak to us about some of these shortcomings here?
Yeah, thanks, Ninesh. Yeah, since WFP has no independent source of funds, all donations are either in cash or in kind, and they must be accompanied by the cost that is required to manage and monitor the assistance we move to the people. So the key challenge is that WFP's funding is based on voluntary contribution from the governments, corporations, and individuals, which is often a very short-term sort of approach. In Namibia, for example, we struggle with funding as most voluntary contributions are directed towards other countries that are considered lower income. Yep. And so Namibia being upper middle income, we are not very a target group for such funding. However, globally, over 60 governments underwrite the humanitarian and development projects of WFP. And so this is a remarkable achievement that contributes to the government growing faith in WFP. In Namibia, we continue to work with development partners to identify how to best address more longer-term interventions and therefore address these short-term funding challenges.
Yeah. Speaking about the classification of Namibia as an upper middle income country, we've had several people, speak against this in the past, including our president, saying that it's not an accurate reflection of the situation here on the ground. And as you said, of course, this also affects funding for your organization. What do you make of such a classification?
I just based on my 2 months experience in Namibia, having visited the 8 regions of northern Namibia, and I'll be very fortunate next week. I'm going to visit the south, actually this week, to actually see what is on the ground. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done within the country, and also to get international support to assist those who are very vulnerable. So there are very vulnerable people in Namibia. We still have a long way to go in improving our systems and capacities to make sure that we grow our own food and make people in Namibia more food secure.
Yeah. Indeed. Looking at some of the operations of the WFP at present, we know that you've also received $40 million from the European Union. Just how long will this sponsorship go in your efforts here?
WFP has welcomed this contribution, and a big thank you to the European Union for this gesture. This is remarkable, and also working closely with the Namibian government. And this is a contribution that will target people who are really COVID-19 hit, and also people who are hit with the residual effect of the drought that affected most of Namibia in the last 2 years. Yes. And these effects are long-lasting. So there is an ongoing rigorous process to verify the vulnerable community that will receive this assistance. We think will help about 30,000, some of them in informal settlements, and WFP will work closely with the government and agencies like our sister agency UNICEF to also address malnutrition as well as improve hygiene practices that mitigate the spread of COVID-19 in schools.
Yeah. Dr. Fedha, another issue I'd like to gauge you on is, of course, the outbreak of migratory locusts in the northern eastern parts of the country, Zambezi region to be specific. And having engaged some of the stakeholders who are combating this outbreak there on the ground, of course, they indicated that this may become a national concern. Looking at from a historic point of view, just how big of a concern are natural disasters of this nature in your efforts in combating hunger?
It's of great concern. It's beyond Namibia. It's a regional problem. Yeah. I just came from the Eastern Africa region 2 months ago before I came to Namibia, and that was a widespread destruction of crops, and also danger to any future food growing and therefore food insecurity. So in Namibia, it's a big concern, and I know I have partners that are working very closely with us to address this problem. We were in Zambezi and Kavango, East and West, and we actually saw some of it happening in terms of trying to address that problem. So I think in terms of risk reduction, there has to be a lot of effort being put in place, and now we have to respond to that so that we don't get into losses of food that is already growing in the farms.
Very much so. Dr. Fedha, any final remarks from you this morning before we let you go?
No, this is just a big thank you to the crew in NBC and others for bringing the food security and hunger issue into the limelight. A big thank you to our donors, our sister UN agencies and partners in the fight against hunger. We must work hard to feed ourselves inside Namibia. So going forward, WFP is going to work hand in hand with stakeholders to promote youth and women participation in market-based programs and improve local food production. So I think the collaboration here in Namibia is working out towards the best direction, and we'll continue that approach.
Dr. Fedha, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and all the best with your activities at the World Food Programme here.
Thank you, Mr. Ninishi.
There you have it. That was Dr. George Fedha, World Food Programme country representative in Namibia, talking to us about the Nobel Peace Prize that the World Food Programme has received for its efforts in combating hunger, as well as improved conditions for peace in conflict-affected areas. Of course, also just highlighting some of the activities there of the WFP in Namibia, saying that they continue to work towards overcoming, that is, hunger in the country.